Hi everyone, welcome back to i-Tutor IAS Academy, Tamil Nadu History NCRT series. Today we are discussing lesson 34. It's in world history, the Cold War. So, the Cold War era is 1947 to 1991. It's after Second World War. It was a period of intense geopolitical and ideological rivalry between the United States, that is in Western Bloc, and the Soviet Union, and that is Eastern Bloc, following World War II. It is termed cold because the two supreme powers never fought each other directly in a large-scale hot war. Instead, they compete through a arms race, proxy wars in other nations, and a race for technological superiority known as the space race. So that's why it's called Cold War. Okay. And core ideologies are United States promoted capitalism and liberal democracy, and Soviet Union promoted communism and a state controlled economy. So that is the main difference in ideological split. And the Cold War origin is already we said 1945 1949. Okay. So that is on Marshall Plan, and the US adopted a policy of containment to stop the spread of communism. And after that, early confrontation started. In early tests of resolve, the first major proxy war occurred in Korea, and high of tension. That is the world became closest to nuclear war during the standoff in Cuba, and the second Cold War also happened. That is, the tension rose again after the Soviet invasion of Afghan, and after that, 1991, it's collapsed. Now, Gorbachev policies of glasnost, that is openness, and perestroika restructuring led to the dissolution of the USSR. So that is the collapse of the Cold War. Okay, so further we will discuss in this unit the end of the Second World War. So a rise of the USA and USSR as supreme powers. Two main powers are in the world. The strained relationship between these two countries till the collapse of USSR is known as the Cold War, and term Cold War was used for the first time by Bernard Baruch. Thereafter, this term gained popularity through the journalist Walter Lippmann, and the Cold War may be described as the existence of continued tensions and conflicts between the Western world and the communist countries in general, and between the United States and the Soviet Union in particular. The Cold War was otherwise an ideological war or a propaganda war or a diplomatic war. It was neither a condition of war nor a condition of peace. So it was state of uneasy peace. Okay. What is the beginning of the Cold War? Where it started even before the end of the Second World War, the Soviet Union had imposed a communist regime in the Eastern European countries of Poland, Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, and Yugoslavia. Immediately after the war, the Soviet Union brought East Germany under her influence. West Germany came under the influence of the USA, and the Soviet Union blocked all roads to the West occupied zone in Berlin. This is known as Berlin Blockade, and thus a tension situation developed between the two blocs of the Cold War group. The West was now concerned about the Russian influence, and the USA had then assumed the responsibility of containing communism. On 5th June 1947, the Marshall Plan was announced by the USA, by which economic assistance was to be provided to the Western European nation, and it was a step to save the European continent from the growing influence of communism. In response to American Marshall Plan, the Soviet Union initiated Molotov Plan, and on 12th March 1948, the Doctrine, that is, when Truman was the president of USA, was announced, and accordingly, the USA provided economic and military aid to Greece and Turkey to the tune of $400 million in order to stop the Soviet influence in those countries. So that is the Cold War beginning. And NATO and the USA had created a military alliance to prevent further spread of communism into Western Europe. A beginning in this direction was made by the signing of the Brussels Treaty in March 1948, and Britain, France, Holland, Belgium, and Luxembourg signed this treaty promising military collaboration in case of war. On 4th April 1949, the North Atlantic Treaty was signed, thus forming a military power bloc commonly known as the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO. And the USA Canada, Britain, France, Holland, Belgium, and Luxembourg, Portugal, Denmark, Italy, and Norway became its member, and they had agreed to mutually extend military help in case of an attack on any one of them, and it was formed against the Soviet Union. Next is Warsaw Pact. Between 1955 and 1958, West Asia remained the center of the Cold War. In the series of Western military pacts, the Baghdad Pact was concluded in 1955, later known as Central Treaty Organizations, that is CENTO. In response to this Western military pact, the Soviet Union concluded the Warsaw Pact on 14 May 1955 with her satellite power. During this phase, a number of military pacts were concluded, but the tension between East and West was somewhat reduced. China. The establishment of People's Republic of China by Mao Zedong in October 1949 strengthened the Soviet bloc. The USA refused to recognize the Communist government of China. On the other hand, the USA helped the Chiang Kai-shek to establish his nationalist government in Taiwan, and the USA recognized the nationalist government as the legal government of China and made her as a permanent member of the UN Security Council. The Communist China or the People's Republic of China was prevented by the USA to become a member in the UNO. Okay, that is about China and Korean crisis. In 1950, the arena of the Cold War was changed from Europe to East Asia. After the Second World War, Korea was split into North and South Korea. In the North Korea, the Soviet supported communist government was formed while the South Korea had an American sponsored government. The two Korean governments were in conflict with each other. On 25th June 1950, North Korea attacked the South Korea. North Korea was fighting with the Soviet weapon and Chinese troops, while the USA, in the name of UN force, was fighting on behalf of South Korea, and the Korean War turned the Cold War into an open armed conflict. That is Korean crisis. Next is Vietnam War. Cold War was extended to Vietnam also. The fall of Dien Bien Phu on 7 May 1954 brought the final collapse of France in Indochina. By Geneva Agreement, Vietnam was partitioned at the 17th parallel between North Vietnam and South Vietnam. A conflict development between North Vietnam and South Vietnam. The USA entered the war supporting South Vietnam. Further, in order to contain communism in Southeast Asia, and the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization, that is CETO, was formed in 1954. Next is regional security arrangement. So this is divided into three: NATO, CETO, and Warsaw Pact. So regional security. NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization expansion, and CETO is the Southeast Asian Treaty Organization, and Warsaw Pact year is 1955. NATO's year also 1955 and CETO also 1955. Members are 12 plus Greece, West Germany, Turkey under NATO, and in CETO, USA, UK, France, Austria, New Zealand, Pakistan, Thailand, and Philippines. And under Warsaw Pact, Russia, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, and Romania are under Warsaw Pact. So this is a regional security arrangements. And Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. The Soviet Union stationed her nuclear missile in Cuba, which was a communist country and Soviet ally. The USA considered this as a great threat to her security, and John F. Kennedy sent the 7th Nuclear Fleet towards Cuba. This literally brought the two superpowers to the verge of war. However, the good sense prevailed on both the sides, and the crisis was averted. Subsequently, the USSR dismantled missile in Cuba, and the decline of Cold War, that is detente, that is reduction of tension. After 1960, the USA and the USSR had developed equally in nuclear weapon. Thus, any nuclear war would lead to co-destruction, and this awareness led both the superpower to believe in the inevitability of peaceful coexistence. They were therefore prompted to conclude the nuclear test ban treaty in 1963. This treaty was followed by a hotline agreement between Washington and Kremlin. And after the 1970s, the friction between the Soviet Union and Communist China led to Sino-Soviet rift, and the People's Republic of China was admitted into UN, and President Nixon of USA visited Moscow in May 1972 and concluded the SALTI treaty, that is Strategic Arm Limitation Treaty. And in June 1973, Brezhnev paid a 9-day visit to the United States, and further progress was made in the direction of strategic arm limitation. This reduction of tension between USA and USSR is known as the era of detente and end of the Cold War. With the disintegration of the Soviet Union, the collapse of communism in Soviet Union and Eastern Europe occurred. The bipolar world became unipolar world. On 31st July 1991, American President George Bush and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev signed the historic START 1 treaty in Moscow summit. This marked the end of the era of Cold War. So, the ideological war, otherwise known as the Cold War, was fought for about 5 decades since 1945. The Warsaw, a vertical division of nation states and military alliance were made. Arms race developed. Nuclear holocaust threatened the world on many occasions, and however, after the 1970s, detente resulted in the gradual relaxation of tension between the two superpowers, which ultimately ended with the dissolution of Soviet Union. Okay, so that is the end of the Cold War. So this is all about Cold War today we discussed. Please refer this video, and in between any doubts you can contact us anytime. And one more chapter in world history is there for our NCRT history NCRT series. So thoroughly please refer all the videos, so you will get that continuation. And in for more NCRT series, you just do like, share and subscribe our channel. Thank you so much.
We offer well-equipped reading rooms for students, reading room and premium reading room. Our facilities are comfortable and executive chairs, inbuilt lockers, Wi-Fi, newspapers, periodicals, and a fully air-conditioned, peaceful environment and CCTV secured. Additional facilities include clean drinking water, a separate lunch area, and a game zone, chess and carom, for relaxation. For admission, contact us on 909-448-5485 Trivandrum.